last week we announced Rick's Picks Challenge. Again, to recap, I gave New York Rick $100, 100 fake dollars, to prove that he is, in fact, an expert bettor, an expert predictor, prognosticator, if you will. And I told him that by April 27th or April 28th, after UFC 159, John Jones versus Chael Sonnen, he has to turn that $100 into $400. The challenge began with UFC on FX7 last weekend, or this past weekend, I should say. We welcome in New York Rick now. How did you do, sir?
I lost $1.74 total.
Okay, now here's the thing. And by the way, I think I hear a bit of an echo there when you speak. I don't know if it's just in my headphones. You lost $1 and what?
74 cents.
$1.74. How much did you put on the line? How much did you actually bet going into it?
I believe it was $31.
How did you lose $1.74? Explain it to us.
I'll break it down for you.
Okay.
I put $10 on Bisping. That was my loss for the night. I went 3-1. Bisping was my loss for the night. I lost $10 on that. I bet $7 on Nurmagomedov.
What? Okay. Anyway.
What?
Nurmagomedov.
Nurmagomedov.
Or Khabib.
On Habib. And got $3.78, so I won that one.
Okay.
Then I had Yuri Alcantara and Barboza parlayed. Now, what happened was Alcantara got not disqualified. There was a no contest in that fight.
Right.
So what happens is, in that parlay, it becomes only a bet on Barboza. I don't get any action, nor do I lose any action on Alcantara. So essentially, I bet $7 on Barboza to get $2.33.
Right.
And I also had Alcantara in another parlay with Honey Marks. So similarly, I get the straight action on Marks, which is $7, to win $2.15. So that didn't quite match the $10 that I bet on Bisping, which I lost, those three bets. So I lost $1.74.
So my question to you is, why you have to turn 100 into 400, right?
Yep.
Why are you making bets that are going to give you back $2, $3? How are you going to get that 400?
Here's the reason that that's happening, and the reason that $400 is a very unrealistic expectation for actual bets.
For 10 fights, 10 fight cards with, well, let's say 10 fights times, let's say there's 10 fights on the card, even though there's usually more, 100 fights. Right?
Well, you're not going to bet on every fight.
Well, you can.
Of course you can, but
Sure.
my goal isn't to bet on every fight.
Your goal is to
make money.
continue making Rick's picks.
Right.
You have to rise to the occasion.
Sure, but I'm going to bet on, for example, the only bet that I actually made here that was a winning bet was Nurmagomedov.
Right.
Or Nurmagomedov.
There you go.
However you want to pronounce it, however it's supposed to be pronounced.
Right.
Which was $7 to make $3.78. The other ones were going to pay more, but didn't. So the only one that we can actually analyze that was a winning bet was that one. The reason you want to keep it at a realistic number, for example, if I'm betting $10 on Bisping, that's 10% of all the money I have to work with over the course of this entire time. 10% of that. That's a very large amount to bet under normal circumstances. The reason I made it is because there's pressure to make the 400. Normally, you want to bet like 1 or 2%.
But that's the challenge, right? It's
Right.
Not, this is not normal circumstances.
Well, you're asking me why I'm betting so low, but in actuality, I'm not betting low at all. Those are actually very high value bets.
Really? What do I know about betting? To me, when you say I'm making a bet and I stand to gain $2.31,
But that wasn't the original bet. I would have gotten $4 or $5 out of that one if he was if Alcantara was rightfully awarded that win. I would have made about 4 or 5 out of that one. So let's say
is it because you didn't like the card?
Oh no, this was a very bad card for betting.
Well, that explains it. That's what you should have said at the top.
Well, you're going to see similar numbers. Like, I'm not going to bet $50 on anybody. That's just lunacy. It doesn't make sense.
Why not?
Because if I lose that bet, number one, the first thing you have to know about betting, this goes for everything, is you have to be willing to lose.
Sure.
I'm not willing to lose $50 on one fight.
But isn't that fun? I mean, people do it all the time.
Sure, it's fun.
You're the guy who goes to Vegas to bet $5 on a fight. Oh, here's my $5 bill. I can't wait.
No, because my bankroll isn't $100 if I'm going to bet on a fight. In this case, my bankroll is very low. My bankroll is $100. I can't bet half of that with the risk of losing, and then when I lose, what am I left with? I'm left with $50 to do what with? So then the reason the bets are so low in your eyes, but they're actually not, is because the bankroll is so low. Let's say I had $100,000, then the number would be
right. You just add
significantly.
Right.
Yeah, you would add zeros to it.
Is it embarrassing for Rick's Picks Challenge when we go to your Twitter, which, by the way, has been growing exponentially since this was announced, and I feel like I deserve some of that credit. Is it embarrassing when I go to Rick's Picks, Twitter.com/New York Rick, and I see $3 on this guy, $7? I mean, I want to get my juices flowing. I want to be like, yeah, ride, baby, ride.
We can add zeros to it if that's what makes you happy. I mean, it's not going to change the percentage of the bet. All it's going to do is change from, okay, so my bankroll is $100,000 instead of $100, and then my bet would be, my winnings would be $20,000 instead of $2. All you're doing is adding zeros.
Right.
It doesn't change percentages.
It's kind of like The Price is Right when they try to get it to $1. Like, why are they doing it 85 cents? Why not make it $85?
Exactly.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
Listen, I give you credit for not succumbing to the pressure. I'm sure there are people who made fun of those picks because at first glance, I thought they were silly as well.
No, my goal is to make, for this card, my goal was to make a little bit of money. The most I was going to make was, I believe, $22 or $23, risking $50. So this wasn't one of them that I was looking for any home runs or anything like that, because I didn't like this card for betting. The upcoming cards, there are going to be more that I'm going to be putting more dollars down. But this one, my goal was to kind of squeak out some money. $22, I think I was... that was the maximum I was going to be able to make, and I think that rightfully I could have won $3 or $4 if the Alcantara decision which
was complete nonsense. A horrible night for Dan Mergliotta. Dana White highlighted that on Twitter. I mean,
and this is a reason why you don't bet $50 of your 100. If something like this happens, you've just lost half your money for no reason. You know what I mean? Let's say I had put $50 on Alcantara, and a parlay with somebody else. It's an unnecessary risk.
You know it's got to suck, and I never really think about this, but those crappy decisions when you see crazy, and if you have money on those fights, holy moly, you probably want to shoot your brains.
It's terrible. It's a feeling of, oh, you won so much money, and then instantaneously it's taken away from you.
Do you think that's why people don't bet on MMA as much as other sports?
It has risks like that.
I feel like the odds makers haven't quite figured it out just yet. Like you watch a basketball game and it's like -2.5, and it ends up being like a 3-point game or a 2-point game.
I think that they've gotten a lot better, and I think that they're pretty close these days. I think that currently the situation is pretty good, but you also have to remember that they're not predicting who's going to win. They're predicting the most money they can get on both sides of the line, meaning, if a guy is a fan favorite, that influences the line, and that'll change the number. They're trying to maximize people betting on both fighters, not predict who's going to win. You always have to remember that when taking into account betting.
All right, so right now you have what, $98 and something?
Yeah, 98.24.
Okay, you have 98.24.
26.
26. You went 3-1. Mergliotta screwed you a little bit.
Yep.
And this weekend, great thing, you can rebound. We've got UFC on Fox 6. Now, you told me before the show that you are reserving the right to wait till an hour after the weigh-ins. That's the rule that we set in, to make your official picks, right?
Just like last time, I wanted to wait until I saw weigh-ins to make official picks, but I did make my picks before weigh-ins. I just wanted to make sure everything went smoothly and according to what I expected, and then locked in those picks. I made those picks the night before, tweeted them out, and then whatever I saw at weigh-ins reconfirmed what I thought, and I just went with those same picks.
All right, so on Monday, and he will be tweeting his official picks at twitter.com/New York Rick an hour after the weigh-ins on Friday. On Monday, who are we thinking about? And you could do whatever you want. You don't even have to talk about the main card, because you picked Alcantara, you picked Tony Marks.
Yep.
Who are we leaning towards based on what's out there as far as odds?
Okay, how about we just go fight by fight?
Okay, you want to do the whole card? Look at you trying to monopolize the show.
The ones that have odds
okay,
out,
okay,
we'll talk about those first,
right.
and then anything that I might be thinking about. So we'll start with the main event. We'll start with Johnson and Dodson.
Yes.
Johnson is currently minus 225. He's the favorite, and Dodson is plus 185. I'm leaning toward Dodson right now. I think
the underdog. We're looking to make some money here.
I think that it's a very close fight, and I think that Demetrius is the slight favorite in my mind. I think that he will probably win, but I think that at 185, Dodson has some value. I think that he might be able to stuff Demetrius and knock him out even. I think that Dodson's skill set and his talent is almost unmatched at those lower weight classes. The way he can keep the speed that the other guys in his division have, but also have the power as he's displayed. I think that if he can stuff Johnson, and remember, he has to do this for 5 rounds. If he can stuff Johnson and land one on the chin, I think he has a good shot here. So I think that even though I might lean toward Johnson as the winner, I think that there's value on Dodson. So I might be putting a bet down on Dodson later in the week. But I'm not ready to, make the bet yet, but that's what I'm feeling.
By the way, I don't know if this is true, but this is unbelievable if true. Dashmass 3000 says that he bet $300 on Barbosa to win via KO, and Mergliata. Oh no.
Alcantara?
And no, on Barbosa and Martin's tapped. So he tapped due to strikes. That's crazy. If that's true, that's crazy.
Yeah, because that's considered a submission due to strikes. That's rough. I mean, this is why, as you were like, why aren't you betting more? This is the type of stuff that prevents you from doing that. It's an unnecessary risk, So you don't want to bet all of your bankroll, and this is the type of stuff that happens. There's a reason that you can bet on a draw in a fight.
Crazy. That's so boring to root for a draw. That's like betting the under.
Nobody does it because it's so rare.
Right.
But let's say somebody had bet on a draw with Frankie Edgar and Gray Maynard. They're cashing in.
Okay, so you like Dodson. What about Rampage Teixeira?
This is another one where I think that even though I might pick Teixeira to win, I think that there's value in Jackson. I think that he's being severely underrated at plus 245 and Teixeira at a favorite at minus 290. I definitely don't like Teixeira's odds. So even if I don't bet on Jackson, I don't see any way that I'm betting on Glover here.
Is he overhyped in your opinion?
I wouldn't say he's overhyped. I think that he's definitely a contender and the talent is there. And the hype is real in terms of he can be somebody to watch out for. But I don't think that he should be this big a favorite over a guy like Rampage. There's no reason to believe that Rampage isn't motivated for this fight and doesn't want to go out. Let's say he's going out of the UFC. He's going to want to go out with a bang.
Right.
Let's say he's staying in the UFC. He wants to stake his claim that I'm still here. I don't see any reason to believe that he's not motivated for this fight. And I think that with a guy like Glover Teixeira, who's been hit before and a little bit staggered, Maldonado hit him with some shots that kind of put him back on his heels a little bit, even though he completely dominated that fight, no doubt about it. I think that Rampage you can never count out Rampage to just dig in and land a shot on somebody.
If Rampage isn't motivated for this fight, he'll never be motivated again.
Completely agree. So I think that you throw out the motivation thing, which is one of the things in the past that you have to think about when betting on Rampage. I think that there's good value in him standing his ground and landing one on Glover's chin. I think that there's value in that. Even though I might lean toward Glover, I'm not even sure I would do that, but definitely no bet on Glover. Possible bet coming later on Quinton Rampage Jackson.
By the way, nice haircut.
Thank you. Shaved too, lined it up nicely.
Wow, look at you.
I listen to the people. I'm a man of the people.
Yeah, that was a big complaint last week. You get the airtime, you got to look nice. High and tight, as they say.
Looking good, right?
All right, what else we got? Anthony Pettis, Donald Cerrone. This is an interesting one. Close one.
Love this fight outside of betting. I mean, I think this is just a fantastic fight. They're both minus 110, meaning, this is essentially an even odds fight. Right now, I'm leaning toward Pettis, and I think there might be a little bit of value there. I think that he's being underrated because of his time off. I just think that people are forgetting how truly talented and amazing this kid really is. Wow, can't believe I just said that.
Wow.
People are forgetting how talented and amazing of a fighter he is. He has such a complete striking game and such a complete ground game. Even when he's on his back, for example, in the Clay Guida fight, he's always challenging with submissions, always going for the finish. I just think he's one of most talented fighters in MMA, and I think that Cerrone similarly is a very, very talented striker, and no disrespect to his submission game either. He's also a very good grappler, but I think that Pettis is going to be able to bring it to him, whereas Cerrone's more effective when he's dictating the pace and bringing it toward the opponent. For example, he was able to, bring it to Melvin after Melvin clipped him and he was rocked. And then after that point, Cerrone was able to push his pace onto Melvin. I think that there's a possibility that Pettis can hang with Cerrone on the feet. I don't think it's as big a mismatch as some other people might think, and even be able to implement some kind of grappling, some kind of wrestling game. Although I've seen some things in the media that Pettis is saying Cerrone would shoot first. So I'm thinking, I can't tell if that's mind games, if he plans on standing. I'm not sure. But I think that Pettis is good here. Now, that said, I don't know if I'm going to bet on it just because I could similarly see Cerrone just pushing the pace and implementing his striking game the way I think that Pettis could. So I might not bet on this one, especially at even odds. But if I do, it'll probably be on Pettis.
All right. And then the final fight on the main card is Eric Koch versus Ricardo Lamas. I spoke about that. A lot on the line here for these two featherweights. Who you liking?
I like the value on Koch here.
Oh.
At -140. Lamas has a very impressive resume. He's looked great lately, no doubt about it. But I think that another guy who people are forgetting how talented he is due to injury. I think that's the theme here is Eric Koch is a supremely talented fighter, and he was about to have a title shot, and I think that he deserves a title shot, and he'll prove it by defeating Lamas. So I think that at -140, that's actually pretty good value on Eric Koch, and I'm probably going to go with him when I do make my pick.
All right. Anything else?
The line is out for Wyman and Grant.
I love this fight. This on FX. This is the main event on FX.
Yeah, Wyman's the slight underdog at +100, and Grant is -120. I really don't know who I would pick in this one. I'm probably going to stay away from betting. I think that Grant's just looked absolutely fantastic since going to 155. And I think that when we picked Wyman and Sass, I made a game time decision to pick Sass. I was originally going to go with Wyman, and wrong. I said that he's one of the most underrated. The same thing I said about Pettis, that he's supremely underrated, and I have a lot of respect for his skill set. So I would normally pick TJ Grant against mid-level 155ers, but I think that Wyman is up there with him. So it's one that I think right now is the odds are perfect. +100 and -120 is essentially even odds. It's definitely where I think this fight is going to be. It could be anybody's game, and I probably won't bet on it.
I don't know much about betting, says Sharif Sure, but Rick is stalling. Call him out on it. I don't even know what that means.
Stalling in what regard?
I don't know what that means. Hey, this other guy, Jetty Goodman, says on Twitter, he bet $35 and won $870. The challenge would be over. 4-fight parlay on Nick Lentz, CB Dalloway, Khabib Nurmagomedov, and Ildemar Alcantara.
Here's the thing. I get a lot of people on Twitter coming to me like, "Oh, I made $10 million because I bet 100 on a 20-fight parlay." No, I believe them. The problem is, yeah, okay, now tell me about the bets that you lost. It's always fun to go back and be like, "Oh, I picked this card perfectly. I went 3-0. Yes, that's impressive. Congratulations. We should all support each other. I'm happy that you made some money, but I'm being scrutinized on my wins and losses. So unless you're showing me your losing betting slips too, I'm not really that interested. I love to hear the fans tell me about their wins, and I'm happy for them, and I support them 100%. But, let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Let's slow it down a little bit.
All right. So there you have it. Follow him on Twitter, twitter.com/NewYorkRick. Those are the picks he's feeling right now, but he's not making official picks, as we said. That's coming an hour after the weigh-ins on Friday in Chicago. So you'll have to follow him if you want to find out who he's picking. And by the way, if you look at the YouTube version of the MMA Beat, a lot of support for New York Rick to make his MMA Beat debut. It's pretty shocking, to be honest with you.
It's not shocking at all.
It's unbelievable. Like, one of the top-rated comments is New York Rick. Get New York Rick in there. I mean, wow. Unbelievable. So there you have it. A lot of people want to see you do it. I'm just worried that your $2 bets aren't going to get you to 400. That's all. Just keep that in mind.
You'll see more action. I wasn't thrilled about this card for betting. You'll see more.
Okay.